There is something in the human psychology that causes us to focus on existential fears. That we're going to all blow up tomorrow. We're going to all disappear. That's existed since the beginning of time. I'm convinced that the third or fourth person that was born on the earth said, well, it's all over tomorrow. I'm Ben Lytle, and I'm the author of a book series called The Potentialist. The first one is The Potentialist, Your Life in the New Reality of the Next 30 Years. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur, came up as a technologist, and so I've always stayed involved with technologists, became really interested in human potential when I was in college, and have made that my lifelong avocation. And that's really the underlying source and the purpose of these two books is to have us focus on our potential more in the future as technology changes the world we live in. The first 88 pages tries to do something that was very hard, which is to summarize 30 years of change into 88 pages. Because there's a lot of great books on the future, and some of those were sources for mine, but people don't read them. They're just too complex, too dense. Then the next 120 pages, 140 pages are 7 things that if you will do those 7 things over a period of time, focus on those 7 things, you'll be way ahead of the game as the world changes dramatically and very fast. It starts with the premise that the highest human achievement is wisdom. It contains everything else that we would want that are wonderful adjectives. It starts with a principle that I've developed since in the 50 some odd years I've been studying this. It's not as hard as we think it is. We think it's, we got to go study in Tibet, or it's not that at all. That growth mechanism is inside us, and it's simply, and a lot of things we already do, we already know, but we just don't practice them every day. There's a term that somebody coined, which I think is kind of ridiculous, but it sort of says a lot about our times, that optimism is toxic. And I went, that's the strangest thing I think I've ever heard. Optimism is not toxic. Naivete can be dangerous, but optimism is a different thing than naivete. And I'm obviously, because of the book, and everything else I've done in my life, I'm a pretty well-read guy. I'm a well-traveled guy. I've been all over the world. I've known incredibly powerful, some of them famous people. And as a rule, they were optimistic. What makes a pragmatic optimist is essentially, it's almost like a legal term. My argument's better than yours. Since we don't know none of us know for sure what the future is. None of us have that. But why would I choose pessimism and fear? Fear, that says a lot about me. It doesn't say anything about what the future is going to be. Fear makes you make bad decisions. You cannot make good decisions if you're fearful. And pessimism blinds you to opportunity. You could I've seen people do it, walk right past it because they couldn't see that there was also an opportunity here, not just something that's going to be challenging. And so a pragmatic optimist looks at that and says, well, simply because if nothing else, I'll see opportunity and I'll enjoy life better, I'm going to be optimistic. The other part of pragmatic optimism is history. We're a very, very, very old race, and we should have many times maybe not made it as a race, but we did. And I'm betting on us again. And I think 3 million years of optimism versus pessimism says there's good reason here to be optimistic. There is something in the human psychology that causes us to focus on existential fears. That we're going to all blow up tomorrow. We're going to all disappear. The world's going to, that's existed since the beginning of time. I'm convinced that the third or fourth person that was born on the earth said, well, it's all over tomorrow. Because we see it all around us, and it is deeply embedded in our psychology. There's one school of thought of 5 fears, 5 primal fears. One of those primal fears is of the loss of existence, meaning I was never here. That we're not so much scared of death. I mean, we're scared of death, obviously, but we fear death. But that somehow I will have never existed. And I think that's what that taps into, is that that the entire human race would disappear and it didn't mean anything. Well, that's not the way the universe works. We will have meant something no matter what. But I think we'll make it. You think about people. You can experience it yourself all the time. Dinner parties. Maybe sitting with older people, and everybody starts on a downward spiral. How horrible it is, and how this is, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. Stop for a second in the middle of that and go, how's this making me feel? How's this making me? It never makes you feel. Am I any smarter at the end of it? No. So all we've done is we've just compounded each other's fears. So starting with the fact that life is better, if you can see its beauty. And a big part of life is seeing and accepting life as it is, not as I would wish it to be. And that doesn't mean we don't try to make it better every day. We do. But saying, okay, what it is beautiful. Anybody that was outside yesterday and didn't see the beauty of life, go check yourself. Because this is a beautiful world to live in. Life can be a wonderful thing, but it can't be a wonderful thing if every day you're walking around in fear and anger and resentment, and it just doesn't work. If you are in an agitated state, something happens. This happens in life. Go in the bathroom, wash your face, wash your arms. There's magic in that. Take a few deep breaths, collect yourself, because inside yourself is the peace you're looking for, not out there. The ability to really love someone, not worrying about whether it's gonna work out, not work out, because love is based upon intimacy, and that's not physical intimacy. That's physical intimacy is part of it, but intimacy is the desire to connect with others. It's what we do. We connect, and intimacy at its purest is simply the joy of being together. Think about your best friends, your oldest friends, somebody in your family. You don't have to have a reason to want to be with them. You just love being with them. That's intimacy. And from intimacy grows unconditional love. And if you can learn to really feel that and work towards loving and accepting, people for who they are, it's not your job to change them, or darn sure not your job to judge them, then just you'll be a lot happier. So that's one of the most important things. And then the other is what I was talking about, some of those practices, is the practice of openness. The truth and the way to live lives inside of us, and we can tap that. But we have to tap it by being open, not being closed-minded, not fighting the world outside, more just accepting it and then tapping that place inside. That's what makes the difference. I believe every person on the planet needs two things to be happy for sure. One is the joy of self-achievement. If you don't feel like you accomplished anything, because we're so hardwired, like trees, flowers, and everything else, to grow to our potential, if we don't feel like we accomplished anything, we feel horrible. The most unhappy people in life are those who've been entitled from the time they were born and never did anything. The other thing we need is the enlightenment from self-discovery. So the joy of self-achievement and the enlightenment of self-discovery. Self-discovery is how you figure out what you want to be. What do you want to do? What do you want your life to mean? What lights you up every day? Just keep doing that, So as long as it's good for other people, as long as it passes the test, it does. I enjoy it. It's good for me, and it also helps other people at least a little bit. There is a huge misunderstanding that somehow if we're not living 100% for other people, we're somehow not a good person. That is simply a misunderstanding of what it means to be human, in my opinion. We can do both. There's a powerful philosophical concept of both. Anytime we start thinking either or, we can pretty well know that our ego's got us, because there's always both. So give an example. Go back to the thing I said about being a potentialist. I will do my best to be my best. But remember, I didn't stop at that. And leave the world and the people I meet along the way a little better than I found them. Now, why a little better? Well, because a lot of people fall into thinking the world depends on me to save it. It does not. It asks that you do your part, but it does not depend on you. And when you fall into that, thinking you're saving the world, you're into your ego. And your ego is just trying to make you feel good, feel safe. It's not working for anybody else but you. So that's really it. Is you can do both, and you should do both. Your first job is to live your life well, and in the process help the rest in your species and the whole world. Don't live the ant life. I use that over and over, as a metaphor. Because an ant's a noble creature. I'm not criticizing ants. They work hard, they help the hive, they do all those good things, but they're ants. They're not really aware of anything other than right there. And a lot of our life, it's easy to slip into just the ant life. That is the egocentric thing. We're not stopping to say, okay, well, wait a minute here. Am I living the way I want to do? Am I contributing the way I want to do? Every year, I take the first about a week to 10 days. Usually for me, I do it in January. Some people I've recommended doing it around their birthday. And say, who am I? Who am I? Am I living the life I want to live? Am I doing the things I can do to be my best? And to try my best and make the world a little better. That's a good reflection. It's a really good reflection to make that. So I think making sure you're centered on your role, and then being aware. Wake up, pay attention. Nobody's going to look out for you but you. So you can't count on the institutions the way we once did, not because they're not trying like crazy, but the world's just changing too fast, and they're going through complete revolutions. All of our institutions are.